This gets annoying. Okay. Okay. Welcome in everyone. Yeah, my streaming thing is giving me problems right now. This is supposed to be one long stream, like like um, First Samuel 25. We finished First Samuel, and then it's supposed to jump all the way to Second Samuel 19. We're supposed to stop, but my stream is giving me a problem. So this is the last section of the reading for today. So we're gonna go from Second Samuel 11 to 19. So that's what this stream is. If I can get it going. So let's let's pick up exactly where we left off. I think we left off at chapter 10, and it kind of cut off a little bit. But I'm just gonna jump to chapter 11 because that's I did finish reading chapter 10. But let me share my thing real quick. Let me share my thing. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see this. Let's finish this reading real quick because we don't have that much time. Okay, chapter 11 of First Samuel. It happened in the spring of the year, at the time when the kings go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Israel, and they destroyed the people of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. Then it happened one evening that David arose from his bed and walked on the roof of the king's house. And from the roof he saw a woman bathing, and the woman was very beautiful to behold. So David sent and inquired about the woman, and someone said, "Is this not Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam, the wife of Uriah the Hittite?" Then David sent messengers and took her, and she became no, and she came to him, and he lay with her, for she was cleansed from her impurity. And she returned to her house, and the woman conceived. Wait, hold on. There's jumping up right here. She came to him, and he lay with her, for she was cleansed from her impurity. And she returned to her house. And the woman conceived, so she sent to David. So she sent and told David and said, "I am with child." So this must have been. This probably was a process. This probably was a time. There's a time period here. Like it doesn't just bang, bang, bang. It takes time. Then David sent to Joab saying, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." And Joab sent to Uriah to David. When Uriah had come to him, David asked how Joab was doing and how the people were doing and how war prospered. And David said to Uriah, "Go down to your house and wash your feet." So Uriah departed from the king's house, and a gift of food from the king followed him. But Uriah slept at the door of the king's house with all the servants of his lord and did not go down to his house. So when they told David, saying, "Uriah did not go down to his house," David said to Uriah, did you not come from a journey? Why did you not go down to your house? And Uriah said to David, "The ark and Israel and Judah are dwelling in tents, and my lord Joab and the servants of my lord are encamped in the open field. Shall I then go to my house to eat and drink and to lie with my wife? As you live and as your soul lives, I will not do this thing." Then David said to Uriah, "Wait here today also, and tomorrow I will let you depart." So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. Now when David called him, he ate and drank before him, and he made him drunk. And at evening he went out to lie on his bed with the servants of the Lord, but he did not go down to his house. In the morning it happened that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah. And he wrote it in a letter saying, "Sent Uriah in the front lines of the hottest battle and retreat from him that he may be struck down and die." So it was while Joab besieged the city that he was assigned to Uriah, a place where he knew, and there was a violent man. Then the man of the city came out and fought with Joab, and some of the people of servants of David fell, and Uriah the Hittite also died also. Then Joab sent and told David all these things concerning the war, and charged the messenger, saying, "When you have finished telling the matters of war to the king, if it happens that the king's wrath rises and says to you, 'Why did you approach so near to the city when you fight? Did you not know that they would shoot from the wall? Who struck Abimelech, the son of Jerubishish? Was it not a woman who cast a piece of milestone on her from the wall so that he died in Thebez? Why did you go near the wall? Then you shall say, Your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also." So the messengers went and came and told David all that Joab had sent by him. And the messenger said to David, "Surely the men prevailed against us and came out to us in the field, and when we drove them back as far as the entrance of the gate, the archers shot from the wall at your servants. And some of the king's servants are dead, and your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead also." Then David said to the messengers, "Thus you shall say to Joab, Do not let this thing displease you, for the sword devours one as well as another. Strengthen your attack against the city and overthrow it, so encourage him." So things are happening here. When the wife of Uriah heard that Uriah, her husband, was dead, she mourned for her husband. And when her mourning was over, David sent and brought her into his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing that David had done displeased the Lord. No, David, you already have enough wives, bro. You already got like 4 or 5. Um, Then the Lord sent Nathan to David, and he came to him and said to him, There were 2 men in the city, one rich and the other poor. The rich man had exceedingly many flocks and herds, but the poor man had nothing except the one little ewe lamb which he had brought and nourished. And it grew up together with him, with his children. It ate of his own food and drank of his own cup and lay in his bosom, and it was like a daughter to him. And a traveler came to the rich man, who refused to take him from his own flock and from his own herd to prepare one for the wayfaring man who had come to him. But he took the poor man's lamb and prepared it for the man who had come for him. So David's anger was greatly aroused against the man. And he said to Nathan, "As the Lord lives, the man who has done this shall surely die. And he shall restore 4 folds for the lamb, because he did this thing, and because he had no pity." Then Nathan said to David, You are the man. Thus says the Lord God of Israel, I appointed you king over Israel, and I delivered you from the hand of Saul. I gave you your master's house and your master's wives into your keeping, and gave you the house of Israel and Judah. And if that had been too little, I also have given you much more. Why have you despised despised the commandments of the Lord, to do evil in his sight? You have killed Uriah the Hittite with the sword. You have taken his wife to be your wife. You have killed him with the sword of the people of Ammon, and now therefore the sword shall never depart from your house, because you have despised me and have taken the wife of Uriah the Hittite to be your wife. Thus says the Lord, Behold, I will raise up adversaries against you from your own house, and I will take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbor, and he shall lie with your wives in the sight of his sons. For you did it secretly, but I will do these things before all Israel, before the sun. So David said to Nathan, I have sinned against the Lord. And Nathan said to David, The Lord also put away your sin. You shall not die, however, because by this deed you have given great occasions to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. The child also who is born to you shall surely die. Then Nathan departed to his house. And the Lord struck the child that Uriah's wife bore to David, and it became ill. David therefore pleaded with God for the child, and David fasted in and lay all night in the ground. So the elders of the house arose and went to him to raise him up from the ground, but he would not, nor did he eat food with them. Then on the 7th day it came to pass that the child died, and the servants of David were afraid to tell him that the child was dead, for they said, Indeed, while the child was alive, we spoke to him, and he would not heed our voice. How can we tell him that the child is dead? He may do some harm. Um, when when the David saw that his servants were whispering, David perceived the child was dead, Therefore David said to his servant, is the child dead? They said, he is dead. So David arose from the ground, washed and anointed himself, and changed his clothes, and he went into the house of the Lord and worshipped. Then he went to his own house, and when he requested, they sent food before him, and he ate. And his servant said to him, why is that you have done? You fasted and wept for the child while he was alive, but when the child died, you rose and ate food. And he said, while the child was alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether the Lord will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? Shall I go to him? But he shall not return to me. Then David comforted Bathsheba's wife and went into her and lay with her. So she bore a son, and he called his name Solomon. Now the Lord loved him, and he sent word by the hand of Nathan the prophet. So he called his name Jedediah because of the Lord. Um, Now Joab fought against Rabbah, the people of Ammon, and took the royal city. And Joab sent messengers to David and said, I have fought against Rabbah and have taken the city's water supply. Now therefore gather the rest of the people together and encamp against the city and take it, lest I take the city and it be called after my name. So David gathered all the people together and went to Rabbah, fought against it, and took it. Then he took their king's crown from his head. Its weight was a talent of gold with precious stones, and it was set on David's head. Also he brought out the spoil of the city in great abundance, and he brought out the people who were in it. And he put them to work with saws and picks, iron picks and iron axes. And he made them cross over to the works. So he did to all the cities of the people of Ammon. Then David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. So that is that. After this, Absalom the son of David had a lovely sister whose name was Tamar, and Amnon the son of David loved her. Amnon was so distressed over his sister Tamar that he became sick, for she was a virgin, and it was improper for Amnon to do anything to her. But Amnon had a friend whose name was Jonabab, the son of Shemaiah, David's brother. Now Jonabab was a very crafty man, and he said to him, why are you, the king's son, becoming thinner day after day? Will you not tell me? Amnon said, I Amnon said to him, I love Tamar, my brother Absalom's sister. So Jonabab said to him, lie down on your bed and pretend to be ill, and when your father comes to see you, you may say, please let my sister Tamar come and give me food and prepare the food in my sight that I may eat it, that I may see it and eat it from her hand. Then Amnon lay down and pretended to be ill, and when the king came to see him, Amnon said to the king, please let Tamar, my sister, come and make a couple of cakes for me in my sight that I may eat from her hand. Bruh. And David sent home Tamar, saying, now go to your brother Amnon's house and prepare food for him. So Tamar went to her brother Amnon's house, and he was lying down. Then she took flour and kneaded and made cakes in his sight and baked the cakes. And she took the pan and placed them before him, but he refused to eat them. He refused to eat. Then Amnon said, have everyone go out from me. And they all went out from him. Then Amnon said to Tamar, bring the food into the bedroom that I may eat from your hand. And Tamar took the cakes which she had made and brought them to Amnon, her brother, in the bedroom. Now when she had brought them to him to eat, he took hold of her and said to her, come lie with me, my sister. Bruh. But she answered, no, my brother, do not force me, for no such thing should be done in Israel. Do not do this disgraceful thing. And could I take my shame? As for you, you would be like one of the fools in Israel. Now therefore, please speak to the king, for he will not withhold me from you. However, he would not heed her voice, and being stronger than she, he forced her and he not heed her voice, and being stronger than she, he forced her and lay with her. Sheesh. Then Amnon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred with which he hated her was greater than the love with which she had loved her. And Amnon said to her, arise, be gone. So, yeah. So, he just abused her. He just abused her. So she said to him, no, indeed, this evil of sending me away is worse than the other that you did to me. But he would not listen to her. Then he called his servants who attended him and said, "Here, put this woman out, away from me, and bolt the door behind her." Now she had on a robe of many colors, for the king's virgin daughters wore such apparel. And his servants put her out and bolted the door behind her. Man. Then Tamar put ashes on her head and tore her robe of many colors that was on her, and laid her hand on her head and went away crying bitterly. And Absalom, her brother, said to her, "Has Anon your brother been with you? But now you hold your peace, my sister. He is your brother. Do not take this thing to heart." Wait, so Tamar remained desolate in her brother Absalom's house. Um, but when King David heard of these things, he was very angry. And Absalom spoke to his brother Amnon, neither good nor bad, for Absalom hated Amnon because he had forced his sister Tamar. And it came to pass after 2 full years that Absalom had sheep shears in Baal Hazor, which is near Ephraim. So Absalom invited all the king's sons. Then Absalom came to the king and said kindly, "No, your servant has sheep shears. Please let the king and his servants go with your servant." But the king said to Absalom, "No, my son, let us not go now, lest we lest we be a burden to you." Then he urged him, but he would not go, and he blessed him. And he blessed him. Then Absalom said, "If not, please let my brother in and go with us." And the king said to him, Why should he go with you?" But Amnon urged him, so he and all king let Amnon and all the king's sons go with him. Now Absalom had commanded his servants, saying, "Watch now when Amnon's heart is merry with wine, and when I say to you, strike Amnon, then kill him. Do not be afraid. Have I not commanded you? Be courageous and valiant." So the servants of Absalom did to Amnon as Absalom had commanded. Then all the king's sons arose, and each one got on his mule and fled. And it came to pass while they were on their way that news came to David, saying, "Absalom has killed all the king's sons, and not one of them is left." So the king arose and tore his garments and laid on the ground, and all the servants stood by their clothes torn. Then Jonadab, the son of Shimeah, David's brother, answered and said, "Let not my lord suppose they have killed all the young men, the king's son, for only Amnon is dead. For by the command of Absalom, this has been determined from the day that he forced his sister Tamar. Now therefore let my lord the king take the thing to his heart, to think that all the king's sons are dead, for only Amnon is dead." Okay. Then Absalom fled, and a young man who was keeping watch lifted his eyes and looked, and there were many people were coming from the road on the hillside behind him. And Jonadab said to the king, "Look, the king's sons are coming, as your servant said so. It is." So it was as soon as he had finished speaking that the king's son indeed came, and they lifted up their voice and wept. Also the king and all his servants wept very bitterly. But Absalom went to Talmiah, the son of Ahihud, king of Geshur, and David mourned for his son every day. So Absalom fled and went to Geshur and was there 3 years. And the king David longed to go to Absalom, for he had been comforted concerning Amnon because he was dead. So there's some household rivalry going here. So Joab, the son of Zeruiah, perceived that the king's heart was concerned about Absalom, and Joab went to Tokiah and brought from there a wise woman and said to her, "Please pretend to be a mourner and put on a mourning appeal. Do not anoint yourself with oil, but act like a woman who has been mourning a long time for the dead. Go to the king and speak to him in this manner." So Joab put his words in her mouth. And when the woman of Tokiah spoke to the king, he fell on her face to the ground and prostrated herself and said, "Help, O king." And the king said to her, "What troubles you?" And she answered, "Indeed, I am a widow. My husband is dead. Now your maidservants had 2 sons, and two fought with each other in the field, and there was no one to part them. But the one struck the other and killed him. And now the whole family has risen up against your maidservant." And they said, "Deliver him who struck his brother, that we may execute him for the life of his brother whom he killed. And we will destroy the heirs also." So they would extinguish my ember that is left, and leave to my husband neither name nor remnant on the earth. Then the king said to the woman, go to your house, and I will order concerning you. I will give orders concerning you. And the woman of Tokia said to the king, my lord, O king, let the iniquity be on me and my father's house, and the king and his throne be guiltless. So the king said, whoever says anything to you, bring him to me, and he shall not touch you any more. Then she said, please let the king remember the Lord your God. Do not permit the avenger of blood to destroy anyone, lest they destroy my son. And he said, as the Lord lives, not one hair of your son shall fall to the ground. Therefore the woman said, please let your maidservant speak another word to my lord the king. And he said, say. So the woman said, why then have you schemed such a thing against the people of God? For the king speaks this thing as one who is guilty, in that the king does not bring his banished one home again. For we will surely die and become like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be gathered up again. Yet God does not take away life, but he devises means. He devises means so that his banished ones are not expelled from him. Now therefore I have come to speak of this thing to my lord, the king, because the people have made me afraid. And your maidservant said, I will now speak to the king, and it may be that the king will perform the request of this maidservant. For the king will hear and deliver his maidservant from the hand of the man who would destroy me and my son together from the inheritance of God. Your maidservant said, the word of my lord, the king will now be comforting. For as the angel of God, so is my lord and king, so is my lord the king in discerning good and evil, and may the Lord your God be with you. Then the king answered and said to the woman, please do not hide from me anything that I ask you. And the woman said, please let my lord the king speak. So the king said, is the hand of Joab with you in all this? And the woman answered and said, as you live, my lord the king, no one can turn to the right hand or to the left from anything that my lord the king has spoken. For your servant Joab commanded me. He put all these words in the mouth of your maidservant to bring about this change of affairs. Your servant Joab had done this thing. But my lord is wise according to the wisdom of the angel of God, to know everything that is in the earth. And the king said to Joab, all right, I have granted this thing. Go therefore, bring back the young man Absalom. Then Joab fell to the ground on his face and bowed himself and thanked the king. And Joab said, today your servant knows that I have found favor in your sight, my lord, O king, and that the king has fulfilled the request of his servant. So Joab arose and went to Geshur and brought Absalom to Jerusalem. And the king said, let him return to his own house, but do not let him see my face. So Absalom returned to his own house, but he did not see the king's face. Now in all Israel there was none who was praised as much as Absalom for his good looks. From the sole of his foot to the crown of his head there was no blemish in him. And when he cut the hair of his head at the end of every year, he cut it because it was heavy on him. When he cut it, he weighed the hair of his head at 200 shekels according to the king's standard. To Absalom were born 3 sons and 1 daughter whose name was Tamar, and she was a woman of beautiful appearance. And Absalom dwelt 2 full years in Jerusalem, but did not see the king's face. Therefore Absalom sent for Joab to send him to the king, but he would not come to him. And when he sent again the second time, he would not come. So he said to his servants, see, Joab's fled field is near mine, and that he has barley there. Go and set it on fire. And Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Then Joab arose and came to Absalom's house and said to him, why have your servant set my field on fire? And Absalom answered Joab, look, I sent to you, saying, come here so that I may send you to the king to say, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me to be there still. Now therefore, let me see the king's face. But if there is iniquity in me, let him execute me. So Joab went to the king and told him, and when he had called for Absalom, he came to the king and bowed himself on his face to the ground before the king. Then the king kissed Absalom. So David kissed Absalom. Absalom is terrified because all right, chapter 15. We're almost there, almost there. After this it happened that Absalom provided himself with chariots and horses and 50 men to run before him. Now Absalom would rise early and stand beside the way to the gate. So it was whenever everyone who had a lawsuit came to the king for a decision, that Absalom will call to him and say, what city are you from? And he would say, your servant is from such and such a tribe of Israel. Then Absalom would say, look, your case is good and right. There is no duty of the king to hear you. Moreover, Absalom would say, oh, that I would have made judge in the land, and everyone who has any suit cause would come to me, then I would give him justice. And so it was, whenever anyone came near to bow down to him, that he would put out his hands and take him and kiss him. In this manner, Absalom acted toward all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the men of Israel. Now it came to pass after 40 years that Absalom said to the king, please let me go to Hebron and pay the vow which I made to the Lord. For your servant took a vow while I dwelt at Geshur in Syria, saying, if the Lord indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, then I will serve the Lord. After 40 years. And the king said to him, go in peace. So he rose and went to Hebron. Then Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear, O the king of Israel, then Absalom sent spies throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom reigns in Hebron. And with Absalom went 200 men invited from Jerusalem, and they went along innocently and did not know anything. Then Absalom sent for Ahithophel the Gileonite, David's counselor from his city, from Giloah, while he offered sacrifice, and the conspiracy grew strong, for the people with Absalom continually increased in numbers. So Absalom is creating a name for himself here. Now a messenger came to David, saying, the hearts of the men of Israel are with Absalom. So David said to all his servants who were with him at Jerusalem, arise and let us flee, or we shall not escape from Absalom. Make haste to depart, lest he overtake us suddenly and bring disaster upon us and strike the city with the edge of the sword. And the king's servant said to the king, we are your servants, ready to do whatever my lord the king commands. Then the king went out with all his household after him. But the king left 10 women concubines to keep the house. And the king went out with all the people after him and stopped at the outskirts. And all his servants passed before him, and all the Cherethites, and all the Pelethites, and all the Gittites. 600 men who had followed him from Gath passed before the king. Then the king said to Attai the Gittite, why are you also going with us? Return and remain with the king, for you are a foreigner and also an exile from your own place. In fact, you came only yesterday. Should I make you wander up and down with us today? Since I go, I know not where. Remember, take your brethren back. Mercy and truth be with you. But Attai answered the king and said, as the Lord lives, as my Lord lives, as my Lord the king lives, surely in whatever place my Lord the king shall be, whether in death or life, even there also your servant will be. So David said to Attai, go and cross over. Then Attai the Gittite and all his men and all the little ones who were with him crossed over, and all the country wept with a loud voice, and all the people crossed over. The king himself also crossed over the brook Kidron, and all the people crossed over toward the way of the wilderness. There was Zadok also and all the Levites with him, bearing the ark of the covenant of God, and they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar went up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. Then the king said to Zadok, carry the ark of God back into the city. If I found favor in the eyes of the Lord, he will bring me back and show me both it and his dwelling places. But if he says, thus I have no delight in you, here I am, let him do to me as seems good to him. The king also said to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Return to the city in peace, your 2 sons with you, Ahimaaz your son, and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. See, I will wait in the plains of the wilderness until word comes from you to inform me. Therefore Zadok and Abiathar carried the ark of God back to Jerusalem, and they remained there. So David went up by the ascent of the Mount of Olives and wept as he went up, and he had his head covered and went barefoot. And all the people who were with him covered their heads and went up, weeping as they went up. And someone told David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, O Lord, I pray, turn the counsel of Ahithophel into foolishness. Now it happened when David had come to the top of the mountain where he worshipped God, there was Hushai the Archite coming to meet him with his robe torn and dust on his head. David said to him, if you go on with me, you will become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, as I was your father's servant previously, so I will now be also, so I will also now be your servant. And then you may defeat the counsel of Ahithophel for me. And do not have Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you, therefore. Wait, and do you not have Zadok and Abiathar the priests with you? Therefore it will be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall tell to Zadok and Abiathar the priests. Indeed, they have had they have they have their with them their two sons, Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son, and by them you shall send me everything you hear. So I'm confused here. So David is running from Absalom too? So Hushai, David's friend, went into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. Sheesh, Absalom is taking over. When David was a little past the top of the mountain, there was Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, who met with him a couple of saddle, who met with him a who met with a couple of saddle donkeys, and on them 200 loaves of bread, 100 clusters of grain, 100 summer fruits, and a skin of wine. And the king said to Ziba, "What do you mean to do with these?" So Ziba said, "The donkeys are of the king's household to ride on, the bread and summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine for those who are faint in the wilderness to drink." Then the king said, "Are you?" Then the king said, "And where is your master's son?" And Ziba said to the king, "Indeed, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, 'Today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom of my father to me.'" So the king said to Ziba, "Here, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours." And Ziba said, "I humbly bow before you that I may find favor in your sight, O Lord the king." O Lord, no, my Lord, O king. Now, when King David came to Baram, there was a man from the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, Shimei the son of Gerza, coming from there. He came out cursing continually as he came. And he threw stones at David and at the servants of King David, and all the people and all the mighty men were on his right hand and on his left. Also Shimei said thus when he cursed, come out, you bloodthirsty man, you rogue. The Lord has brought upon you all the blood of the house of Saul, in whose place you have reigned, and the Lord has delivered the kingdom into the hand of Absalom your son. So now you are caught in your own evil, because you are a bloodthirsty man. And Abishai the son of Zeruiah said to the king, "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Please let me go over and take off his head." But the king said, "What have I to do with you, sons of Zeruiah? So let him curse, because the Lord has said to him, curse David, who then shall say, 'Why have you done so?'" And David said to Abishai and all his servants, "See how my sons who came from my own body seeks my life. How much more now may this Benjamite, let him alone, let him curse, for so the Lord has ordered him. It may be that the Lord will look on my afflictions, and that the Lord will repay me with good for his cursing this day." And as King David and his men went along and rode, Shimei went along the hills country opposite him, and cursed as he went, threw stones at him, and kicked up dust. Now the king and all the people who were with him became weary, so they refreshed themselves there. Meanwhile, Absalom and all the people and the men of Israel came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel was with them. And so it was when Hushai the Archite, David's friend, came to Absalom, that Hushai said to Absalom, "Long live the king, long live the king." So Absalom said to Hushai, "Is this your loyalty to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend?" And Hushai said to Absalom, "No, but whom the Lord and his people, all the men of Israel choose, this I will be, and with him I will remain. Furthermore, whom shall I serve? Should I not serve in the presence of this son? As I have served in your father's presence, so I will be in your presence." Um, then Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give advice as to what we should do." And Ahithophel said to Absalom, whom Go into your father's concubines, whom he has left to keep the house, and all Israel will hear that you are abhorred by your father. Then the hands of all who are with you will be strong." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the top of the house, and Absalom went into her father's concubine in the sight of all Israel. Now the advice of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was as of one had inquired at the oracle of God. So it was all the advice of Ahithophel, both with David and with Absalom. Chapter 17, Samuel. 2 Samuel 17. Moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, now let me choose 12,000 men, and I will rise and pursue David tonight. I will come upon him while he is weary and weak, and make him afraid, and all the people who are with him will flee, and I will strike only the king. Then I will bring back all the people to you. When all return, except the man whom you seek, all the people be at peace. And the saying pleased Absalom and all the leaders, all the elders of Israel. Then Absalom said, now call Hushai the Archite and also, and let us hear what he says too. And when Hushai came to Absalom, Absalom spoke to him, saying, Ahithophel has spoken in this manner. Shall we do as he say? If not, speak up. So Hushai said to Absalom, the advice Ahithophel has given is not good at this time. For said Hushai, you know your father and this men, that they are mighty men. They are enraged in their minds like a bear robbed of her cubs in the field. And your father is a man of war, and will not camp with the people. Surely by now he is hidden in some pit or in some other place. It will be when some of them are overthrown at first, that whoever hears it will say, there is a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom. And even he who's valiant, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will melt completely. For all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are valiant men. Therefore, I advise that all Israel be fully gathered to you from Dan to Beersheba, like the sand that is by the sea, for multitude, and that you go battle in person. So we will come upon him in some place where he may be found, and we will fall on him as the dew falls on the ground, and of him all men who are with him shall not be left so much as one. Moreover, if he has withdrawn into the city, then all Israel shall be ropes to that city, and we will pull it into the river until there is not one small stone found there. So Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel, for the Lord had purposed to defeat the good advice of Ahithophel, to the intent that the Lord might bring disaster on Absalom. Then Hushai said to Zadok and Abiathar the priests, thus and so Ahithophel advised Absalom and the elders of Israel, and thus and so I have advised. Now therefore send quickly and tell David, saying, do not spend this night in the plains of the windows, but speedily cross over, lest the king and all the people who are with him will be swallowed up. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz stayed at En Rogel, for they dare not to be seen coming into the cities. So a female servant would come and tell them, and they will go and tell King David. Nevertheless, a lad saw them and told Absalom, but both of them went away quickly and came to a man's house in Barim, who had dwelt in his courts, and they went down into it. Then the woman took and spread a covering over the well's mouth, and spread ground grain on it, and the thing was not known. When Absalom's servant came to the women at the house, they said, where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? So the woman said to them, they have gone over the water brook. And when they had searched and could not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. Now it came to pass after they had departed that they came up out of the wall and went to told King David, and said to King David, arise, cross over the water quickly, for thus has Ahithophel advised against you. So David and all the people who were with him rose and crossed over the Jordan by morning light. Not one of them was left who had not gone over. Now when Ahithophel saw his advice was not followed, he saddled a donkey and rose and went home into his house, to his city. Into the city. Um, then he put his household in order and hanged himself and died, and he was buried in his father's tomb. Then he put his household in order, he hanged himself and died, and he was buried in his father's tomb. He just killed himself. Then David went to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed over the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. And Absalom made Amasa captain of the army instead of Joab. This Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Jithra, an Israelite, who had gone into Abigail, the daughter of Nahaz, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. So Israel and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. Now it happened when David had come to Mahanaim, and Shobi the son of Nahash from Rabbah of the people of Ammon, Machir the son of Amalia from Leo Debar, and Brazili, Brazali, Barzillai the Gileadite from Rogelim, brought beds and basins, earthen vessels, wheat, barley, flour, parched grains, beans, lentils, parched seeds, honey, curds, sheep, cheese of the herd for David and the people who were with him to eat. For they said, the people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. Okay, chapter 18. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. I'm trying to close this thing out. And David numbered the people who were with him and sent captains of thousands, captains of hundreds over them. Then David sent out the third of the people under the hand of Joab, hand of Joab, 1/3 under the hand of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the hand of Ittai, the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I also will surely go out with you myself. And where are we? But the people answered, you shall not go out, for if we flee away, we will not care. They will not care about us, nor if half of us die. Will they care about us? But you are worth 10,000 of us now, for you are now more help to us in the city. All right, guys, let's just finish this one chapter and then we're good. Where are we? Then the king said to them, whatever seems best to you, I will do. So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and by thousands. Now the king had commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, saying, deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave all the captain orders concerning Absalom. So the people went out into the field of battle against Israel, and the battle was in the woods of Ephraim. The people of Israel were overthrown there before the servants of David, and a great slaughter of 20,000 took place there that day. For the battle there was scattered over the face of the whole countryside, and the woods devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. And then Absalom met the servants of David, and Absalom rode on a mule. The mule went under the thick boughs of a great terebinth tree, and his head caught in the terebinth. So he was left hanging between heaven and earth, and the mule which was under him went on. Now a certain man saw it and told Joab and said, I just saw Absalom hanging in the terebinth tree. So Joab said to the man who told him, you just saw him, and why did you not strike him there to the ground? So Joab said to the man who told him, you just saw him, and why did you not strike him there to the ground? I would have given you 10 shekels of silver and a belt. But the man said to Joab, though I were to receive 1,000 shekels of silver in my hand, I would not raise my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, saying, beware lest anyone touch the young man Absalom. Otherwise, I would have dealt falsely against my own life, for there is nothing hidden from the king, and you yourselves would have set yourselves against me. Then Joab said, I cannot linger with you. And he took 3 spears in his hands and thrust them through Absalom's heart. Then Joab said, I cannot linger with you. And he took 3 spears in his hands and thrust them through Absalom's heart while he was still alive in the midst of the terebinth. And 10 young men who bore Jacob's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. Wait, what? And And 10 young men who bore Joab's armor surrounded Absalom and struck and killed him. But he just got thrust with 3 spears. Let me write that down. 2 Samuel 18:14. That don't even make sense. So Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel. For Joab held back the people, and they took Absalom and cast him in a large pit in the woods, and laid a very large heap of stones over him. Then all Israel fled, everyone to his tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken and set up a pillar for himself, which is the king's valley. For he said, "I have no son to keep my name in remembrance." He called the pillar after his own name, and this day is called Absalom's monument. Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zodok, said, "Let me run now and take the news to the king, how the Lord has avenged him of his enemies." And Joab said to him, "You will not take the news to this day, for you shall take the news another day. But today you shall take no news, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to the Cushite, "Go tell the king what you have seen." So the Cushite bowed himself to Joab and ran. And Ahimaaz, the son of Zodok, said again to Joab, "But whatever happens, please let me also run after the Cushite." So Joab said, "Why will you run, my son, since you have no news ready?" "But whatever happens," he said, "let me run." He said to him, "Run." Then Ahimaaz ran by way of the plain and outran the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof over the gate, to the wall, lifted his eyes, and looked, and there was a man running alone. Then the watchman cried out and told the king, and the king said, "If he is alone, there is news in his mouth." And he came rapidly and drew near. Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, "There is another man running alone." And the king said, "He also brings news." So the watchman said, "I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz the son of Zadok." And the king said, "He is a good man and comes with good news." So Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, "All is well." Then he bowed his face to the earth before the king and said, "Blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the men who raised their hand against my lord the king." The king said, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" Ahimaaz answered, "When Joab sent the king's servant, me and your servant, I saw a great tumult, but I did not know what it was about." And the king said, "Turn aside and stand here." So he stood aside and stood still. Just then the Cushite came. Then the Cushite said, "There is good news, my lord the king, for the Lord has avenged you this day of all those who rose up against you." And the king said to the Cushite, "Is the young man Absalom safe?" So the Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise against you to do harm be like that young man." Then the king was deeply moved and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept as he went. He said thus, "O my son Absalom, my son Absalom, if only I had died in your place. O Absalom, my son, my son." So Absalom dies he got hung, but then he got thrusted with these spears, and then Joab's companions or his arm bearers fought and killed him. So bro got mobbed up here. Absalom got absolutely mobbed up. And yep, and that will be it, guys. So that's the reading for today. And I wish I could have made this into just like one video, just like one long video. But as I told y'all, as I told you guys, my streaming thing, something happened. Something happened to my streaming. But so this is the part 2. This is the rest of the chapter 11 to chapter 19. And guys, we completed the read for today. It was kind of tight. I got to get ready to go to work. But I appreciate you guys for tuning in and watching this. And make sure y'all like, subscribe, share, and I'll catch y'all tomorrow for another grind. Thank you guys. 2 Samuel. We're probably going to finish 2 Samuel tomorrow. But hey, you guys.